And Rob, the Braves, the number 1 seed, are on the brink. They are down 2-1, so they got to win this one or go home. And Rob, if they lose, they will become the third top
seed.
Of the top. Yeah, top. Well, there's the top 4 seeds.
Right.
They will become the third to lose in the divisional round. And you've got Arizona, which was a 6th seed, beating the Dodgers, sweeping the Dodgers. I mean, just making mincemeat of the Dodgers.
Mincemeat. Very nice.
You had Texas, the 5th seed, doing the same thing to the Orioles, who were the number 1 seed.
Swept the Orioles, right?
Yep.
Won 2 games in Baltimore, Chris.
Man, number 1 seed Orioles, and they go down like that. And then the lone top seed, if you will, that survived were the Astros, who beat Minnesota. Astros were a 2 seed. Minnesota, a 3 seed. Beat them 3-1. They'll move on to face the Rangers in the ALCS. And I'm not, I picked the Astros, Rob, so they get it done. They know how to get it. What's this, their 7th straight
7
ALCS?
years, yeah, 7 years in a row, ALCS.
No, those boys are bad. But so what do you think is the reason? Because this happens sometimes, but what do you think is the reasoning behind this? All these top seeds going down.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And here's a crazy number. Okay, the teams, Chris, with the 5 best records in the regular season. You ready for their playoff record this year? 1-12, and the only win is Baltimore. I mean, is the Braves, that comeback victory, Chris.
Wow,
that is it. 1-12. And that's the Braves, Orioles, Rays, Brewers, Dodgers. Everybody got swept except the Braves, who are down 2-1. I'm sorry, in a best of 5. Game 4, of course, about to start.
And all those teams, Rob, except for the Rays, the top 4 seeds, the Baltimore, Houston, Atlanta, and LA, the Dodgers, they all had a bye. And there's a lot of talk. You and I have broached the subject, but I want you to delve deeply into it now. It's about a week off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in a sport where you're for what, 6-7 months, you're playing every day, and then all of a sudden you get a week off, and the other team, your opponent, is playing. I gotta be honest, Rob. I think it's a disadvantage. It does every time. It doesn't. I don't want to make it an excuse. And every time it doesn't, kill a team every time. We just mentioned the Astros.
Right, the Astros.
But even if you win,
them, right.
Yeah, I just think baseball's such a rhythm game. And I think you can lose your rhythm while these other teams can gain their rhythm and going into a series with you. So I think that is part of the issue.
I don't disagree. And they got to take a look at it, because why is this happening? It's not natural, Chris, to have that much time off, even the All-Star break. And, that's the most time you get all year, but everybody's off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly,
so that's a little
exactly.
different. Everybody's off, so everybody has to kind of get back into it. But, Chris, I want to focus in on the Dodgers and what happened to the Dodgers, because you mentioned the other teams, the other top seeds. But what's happened to the Dodgers makes me think about something. And you would think that we talk about this all the time, Chris, about being relevant. You want your team to be relevant, right, to be in the mix, to have a chance to win. That's all you want as a fan. I'm going to not prescribe to that. I'm not. Because being relevant, if you're telling me about the Los Angeles Dodgers, Brian Kenny threw out a stat today, Chris, and not counting the 60-game season in 2020. In the last 7 years,
which is when they won it.
Right, but the last 7 years, the Dodgers have averaged, you ready for it, Chris? 105 wins. That's their average.
Last 7 years.
105 wins.
And they were still winning the division before that.
Exactly. And it's just the last 7. They've won like 12 or 13,
straight or
11, yeah. 11, they've been to playoffs
I don't know
11
about
straight years.
but yeah,
11 straight years they've been to playoffs. And I'm not going to prescribe to that anymore. I'm looking at this, and you know what? I'd rather be a Washington Nationals fan, Chris, than to be a Los Angeles Dodger fan. And I'm going to tell you why. I'd rather my team win a championship, and they might not be good every year, and they might not be in the mix or whatever, but the disappointing and the heartache that the Dodgers have put on their fans seems to be, it's like torture. Yeah, we're in the mix. Yeah, we win 100 games. Yeah, we made the playoffs 11 years in a row. Yeah, we knocked off all these teams and we beheaded them and we scored 100 more runs than the next team and we hit all these home runs. But we got one World Series? That's all? Dodger fans, yeah, Chris, I know that felt good to win in 2020. But what about all the other heartache? And I can name other teams. The Kansas City Royals, right? They're not in the mix every year, Chris. They won a World Series.
Most years.
Right? But they won a World Series.
But here's where I disagree with you. First of all, the Dodgers have, I mean, if we're talking about recent history, they won the World Series too. So Washington has one. The Dodgers have one. Kansas City's got one. You know, we're talking about recently. But yet the Dodgers, at least every year, they're in the hunt. It's got to be terrible now to be a Washington Nationals fan. Okay. And I'm supposed to live off that one championship forever?
Not forever.
And again, I don't even think I'd necessarily agree with you if the Dodgers didn't have a ring. But at least they got one. Now, if you give me a team that has two in these 11 years that the Dodgers don't, and they then the other years they fell off and weren't competitive, that's an argument. But, I don't think the Nationals and the Royals are the teams you want to argue because they had one. We all got one, and they felt at least we're competitive every year.
Yeah, but the difference is, and I hear your point, which is totally logical. But the heartache of being a Dodgers fan and what you go through. And even the 2020, I'm not taking away from them, Chris. That's their one championship. They've won one championship since 1988. We talk about the Atlanta Braves all the time. They had 3 Hall of Fame pitchers. Chris, when you think about that Braves team, you don't think about the one championship that they won, and I think you covered it. Is that the one they beat Cleveland?
Yeah, I did.
You covered that, right?
Yep,
that's the one that they won. That's not what you think about when you think about those Atlanta Braves. You think about them winning 15 out of 16 NL East titles and choking and being up 2-0 against the Yankees. Winning the first 2 games in 96, Chris, not in Atlanta, but at Yankee Stadium, coming home, losing 3 straight games to the Yankees, including a game they were up 6-0, and then getting closed out in Game 6 at Yankee Stadium. So you think about more heartache and more pain than you do the one championship.
We think about the Braves, no doubt. And that's what we'll think about the Dodgers.
That's where the Dodgers are.
Right. Here's what I'd say, though, Rob, to push back against your point a little. These are aberrations. Like I've said it, and you've heard me, and I've said it in regard to basketball, but I think it's true in every sport. What you want is a 7 or maybe even 5 to 10 year period where you're in the mix, where every year you're competitive, you're right there, and you got a shot. And I've brought up examples like Patrick Ewing in New York with the Knicks. Always competitive, always in the second round, maybe conference finals of the playoffs. They ran into Jordan, of course. Steve Nash and the Phoenix Suns, never even got to a finals. Chris Webber and Peja Stojakovic and Mike Bibby and those guys in Sacramento. Those were great runs. And I compared it to the Knicks post-Ewing for the most part, the Suns post-Nash until, recently when they've gotten good, and the Kings post Weber until recently they got good. And they had Rob, we could talk about Detroit. You were there when they won the championship in 2004.
Right.
We all remember the bad boys, and it has been ugly for the last, 10, 15 years in Detroit. So my point is, I would if you're a Knicks fan right now, you would kill for the Ewing years. If you're before these two teams got good, 5 years ago, you would have killed for the Nash era in Phoenix or the Weber era in Sacramento, even though they didn't win it. Now, and I guess Ewing fits the Dodgers bill you're talking about, but I say the Dodgers and Braves are an aberration because they've been so dominant in the regular season, and usually teams don't have this type of run without winning more rings. You know what I mean? That's
what I mean. That's the heartache.
Because at least, Rob, Dodgers fans, at least when they go to a game, it means something. If I'm a Nationals fan,
or Royals,
any of these teams that are bad, like the games. I'm just going there to hang out. I like baseball. Have some
be
food
outside,
and enjoy a game. But it's not. It doesn't mean anything.
But here's
know
the
what
thing.
I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that part, but the heartache. If you're a Royals fan, Chris, you're like, man, 2015, I love that team, man, blah 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 blah. But I'm not walking around with all the scars that Dodger fans are walking around with.
No,
that are going, man, I'm tired of this. Like they won 100 games again. They blew everybody out. Last year they owned the San Diego Padres. Chris, you remember? During the regular season, and then they lost to them in the playoffs. This year, they owned Arizona, and now what? Arizona beats them. Not only beats them, sweeps them. I just think there's so much more heartache as a fan. I wouldn't want to go through all that.
To some degree, as a fan, I don't want to say that's what you live for, but that is part of being a passionate fan. I mean, the highs and the lows. You know what I mean? Like, that's life. The emotion,
I get it, but most fans don't expect to win every year, right? You don't. When the Cubs finally won the World Series, when the Cubs finally won, somebody held up a sign, Chris. I'll never forget it. Now I can die. You know what I mean? That, like that.
That person was 93 years old.
No, but but my point was, all they wanted was to see their team win once. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to see my team. It's like the Lions fans and people in Detroit. Just once. Let my team win a Super Bowl and I'm good. Like, I'm not asking for no back-to-back. I'm not asking for a die. I just want to see my team win once.
So you brought up the Lions, and that's an interesting point. But would you rather be, I'm trying to think of a team, but let's look at the Packers. Right? The last 10 years
Dodgers
or so
have
of Aaron
turned into
Rodgers.
the Packers. The Dodgers
Would you
are the
rather,
Packers.
But if I was a Packers fan during the Aaron Rodgers era, yes, they didn't win it. It was heart-wrenching every year, but that was a great era. We'll look back at that, man. That was a great era.
It might be looked at as a missed era or missed opportunities the way the Atlanta Braves were. And I'm not saying the Packers should have won 4 Super Bowls in a row, but there were games and situations
well, you
that
would
they
think they would have got
more than one.
I'll say they should have got more than one with Rodgers.
More than one.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm interested to hear what people say about this. Go ahead.
I want to ask you this to close it up. So if you're running the Dodgers, would you break it up?
I got to make a change here because I don't have the right.
I'm not talking about just Roberts because the new manager's not going to ruin it. They're going to be good. Right. I mean, are you? But that okay? But you're not trying to blow it up.
No, I'm not saying that.
Like you blow it up and go young.
No. I'm not saying that. But changes have to happen. But I'm saying from a fan's perspective, it's more torture to be the Dodgers than to be the Nationals. Where I know they got a young team.
Yeah,
I know Chris they're not going to win.
But it's also more fun.
Right.
Till you lose.